Hey, welcome. Tom Sinclair here, that VidBlaster guy. Boy, we are having so much fun in the pre-show today. In fact, we had so much fun as we were starting this show that I started it 4 different times. I think that's the most I've ever done it. You would expect the more you do things like this, the better you get. But when you're constantly tweaking stuff, that's what you get. Anyway, for those of you watching live, thank you for being patient for multiple takes and getting the show started. For those of you watching on YouTube, you missed it. Oh, man, you're just going to have to catch us live sometime. But by the way, if you're watching on YouTube, do subscribe because you'll get a notice. At least you'll get a notice from YouTube when we post another video. And you can actually go to our website, easternshorebroadcasting.com, and sign up for exclusive video content, which means that we will send you a notice when we do something weird or wacky, or sometimes when we have a good guest on the show coming up live, and you may want to choose to watch live because live is just more fun. It's just more fun. That's the beauty of live. You never know what's going to happen with live. You know, truth, Martin. You never know. Today's show, well, every show of that VidBlaster guy is about VidBlaster. VidBlaster is the very first live production, live streaming software that I found, and I looked for the longest time. And it's like any other first love. You know, you just hope it gets better and better. And VidBlaster announced this week that the latest beta, version 4.10, has now been approved as an official release. So if you're waiting to upgrade from version 2 to version 3, from version 2 or 3 to version 4, you can get an official release in version 4.10, which is available on the VidBlaster. It's probably available now at vidblaster.com. If you download the trial version, it should be version 4.10. And when you get your license key for it, it will convert to a licensed version of 4.10 from the trial edition. And if you go to the VidBlaster forum, which is forum.vidblaster.com, and to go to the downloads section, you can download version 4.10. And you can also download, when it becomes available, version 4.11, 4.12, as those incremental tweaks, upgrades and bug fixes have been made, and as new features are added in the version 4 series, you'll be able to you'll be able to upgrade your system to those at no charge. And if VidBlaster goes to version 5 within a year of your license purchase, then you can upgrade to version 5 at no charge. Otherwise, the upgrade license fee is 50% of the retail price of whatever whatever edition you have purchased a license for. Got it? You're going to be tested on this later. Full disclosure, though, I am, in addition to being a VidBlaster addict, I'm also a VidBlaster reseller. So if you'd like to purchase the software, you can go to our website and purchase a license there and get free, unlimited, let me rephrase that, free lifetime tech support. And I jokingly refer to it tongue-in-cheek, but, it is true. Your life or mine, whichever ends first. And so let's hope for long lives for both of us. But nothing like having a telephone. I got a phone call yesterday from a client who said, Tom, I want to do this. And I got this amount of time to figure it out. And I said, okay, let's do this, this, and this. And bang, it worked. And they were so glad because, they could have gone through the forum and probably found out the answer in time. But they didn't have time. They needed an answer too sweet. So I know about that, and I'm glad to do that. So if you would like to be one of my clients, you can purchase a license from me, that VidBlaster guy at easternshorebroadcasting.com. How about that for an infomercial? We're also in the middle of a custom PC build for a church and some good friends out in Arkansas. And so we'll be touching base on that. Actually, it'll be out of here by next show. We're gathering all the components together, and it's a fun build. But the builds are always fun. I love building the PCs and then sending them out to somebody that's going to use them and hopefully try to break them. That's what I want you to do. Try to break it. If you can break it, then we'll fix it and we'll figure out how to keep you from breaking it next time. Little things like I sent a PC out to a trade show as a favor to a client, and just boxed it up and shipped it out. And when he got it, he unboxed it and installed it. And he's known for not testing anything before he starts using it. So he throws it out there on the showroom floor and fires up VidBlaster. And within maybe 30 seconds, the system just went to a crawl, just choked up big time. You can guess what happened. That's right. The cooling tower had come loose from the CPU, so the CPU didn't have any cooling essentially, and so it throttled itself all the way back. And he said, "Yeah, I heard something rattling around in the case, but I figured that was supposed to be there." So now we've learned that we take the covers off after they're built and tested. Before they're ready to be shipped, we take the covers off and we fill the whole inside with bubble wrap or the inflatable little plastic balls. And so nothing internally is going to be moving. And then we put big signs on the outside saying, "Don't forget to take all this stuff out before you fire it up for the first time, or you will have fried it." And when you're shipping a long distance, you have to assume that things are not going to go well in shipping. And so you have to be prepared for that, and you want it to arrive perfectly. Anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to get off on that tangent. Hey, VidBlaster 4.10, I think, is the best rendition of VidBlaster ever. There has not been a VidBlaster prior to this that I think is as powerful or as versatile or as easy to use as VidBlaster 10 is. 4.10. Isn't that a coincidence that VidBlaster 4.10, 4.10 is going to be compatible with, that's right, Windows 10, which comes out day after tomorrow, or maybe it's coming out right now. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Whenever Windows 10 comes out, don't download it right away. Take some time. Unless you're an early adopter and you just like, finding out that your legacy capture card drivers don't work with Windows 10, which is what a lot of people are going to find out. Just take a chill pill and let's let some of those other folks make the mistakes, and we'll read about them. And then, we can get on the forums and we can find out, okay, who's having problems with the old Osprey drivers, the old Blackmagic drivers, drivers for, it could be drivers for webcams, could be drivers for a mixer. And I think that's where most of the incompatibility is going to come out, will be in the driver world. I remember upgrading from, I guess it was Vista to Windows 7. I never did go to Windows 8. And there were some devices that I couldn't use anymore because the manufacturers for those devices weren't interested in making Windows 7 drivers for a 5-year-old piece of hardware when they were selling something brand new today that had Windows 7 drivers available. So that is a choice that you can make as you pick up hardware, as to see how future-proof you can be and how good those companies have been about keeping up with drivers over time. People like Blackmagic are always updating their drivers, and there are a lot of folks out there that think Blackmagic drivers are a little flunky. I'm one of those because you have to use some tricks sometimes to get them to work right. But VidBlaster 4.10 is Windows 10 compatible. Sorry for the little diatribe off the subject there. So if you have Windows 10 and you want to use VidBlaster with it, you're going to have to use VidBlaster 4. VidBlaster 3, although I haven't tested it because I don't have Windows 10 yet, VidBlaster 3 is supposedly not compatible with Windows 10. So as soon as I get Windows 10, which will probably be a couple of weeks, I'm going to test it on a version 3 and just see, what do we lose? Or maybe it just doesn't run at all. I don't know. But I want to find out, and I haven't found out yet, what's the big deal? If VidBlaster 4 will work beautifully with Windows 10, what's the advantage? Is it running faster? Is it offloading some of the CPU to work to something else? what is it that is going to make this a better marriage between Windows 10 and VidBlaster 4.10? We will have to see. In the pre-show testing today, and for those of you that showed up early, hey, Tommy's here and Jim's here. Welcome, guys. In the pre-show testing today, I was playing with VidBlaster as a standalone encoder recorder, and I was sending it a 720p feed, and I was asking it to stream that feed to Decast. To the 720p feed went to Decast's flash service, and as this show generally is broadcast 720p to Decast flash and 180p to Decast's HTML5 servers out in Kansas City. And so, and then I was recording 720. And I was trying to find the sweet spot. Now, if you remember in VidBlaster, the streamer has the ability to choose the bitrate, the resolution, and now has a setting to choose compression. And it's real simple. I mean, it's fallen off a log simple. It's either high compression, medium compression, or low compression. Low compression is going to use less CPU. High compression is going to use more CPU. That's pretty much of a no-brainer there. If you've got a lot of bandwidth, you can juice it up there to 3,500, 5,000 kbps. I started out at 3,000 kbps for my 720 feed, and that was I started with medium compression, and I was getting a lot of buffering, and I wasn't sure whether that was because I was sending and receiving on the same PC on the same network. Actually, two different PCs, but the same network. But I've got 25 megs up, 25 megs down, so I've got plenty of bandwidth. So again, I need to see if I was fighting with myself, if that was one of the reasons why I was getting buffering, or if it was another reason. Was the reason to cast? Was the reason the FFmpeg settings? And so as I played around with the streamer settings, and I went from 3,000 BPS to 2,000 to 1,500, it got a little better. In fact, the anomaly actually changed from buffering to a sort of a stop-start and fast-forward on the video and the audio, which was really freaky and was unwatchable. But as I continue to drop the bandwidth, the bit rate, when I got down to 1,000 bit rate at medium compression, it was crystal clear. And again, this is 720p, and I was really surprised at that for 1,000 kbps to look so clean. And as I looked at it more closely, I noticed some video blocking. When you're using a low resolution, and you get those kind of blocks of video that kind of fade and change in and out. And I realized, okay, so 1,000 kbps at the medium setting on the compression for 720p, and VidBlaster was not going to cut it. And I bumped the compression up to high, and then the CPU usage went up to I think anything above 75% is unusable. What I noticed, though, when I did that, I was looking at the Windows Task Manager, and in looking at Windows Task Manager and then looking at the Processes tab, you can see what each individual process behind the scenes is using in terms of CPU. And I noticed that there were 3 instances of FFmpeg that were being displayed there. One was for the recorder, and it was running about 4%. Second one was for the 180p stream, and it was running anywhere from 4 to 7%. And then the one for the 720p stream would be at 17%, then it would be at 30%, then it would be at 20%, then it would be at 45%, and it was all over the creation, all over the landscape. And so something is askew there. Something is slightly not adjusted well, I don't think, to have that kind of variation in the encoding. So I need to get in behind the scenes and see if I can't figure out a little bit more as to what's going on about that. I'll probably post the results of this test on the VidBlaster forum. So if you're a forum reader, you'll see it there. And if you've got some ideas, you can reply to them there, and I would appreciate that. I suspect there is a sweet spot there somewhere between bitrate, compression, and resolution that will give us a pretty picture without eating up all of our CPU. Now, keep in mind, I was streaming 720p, I was streaming 180p, and I was recording all three at the same time in VidBlaster and running vMix on top of that, and running Windows Task Manager and an instance of Chrome. So there were a lot, I guess, well, that is a lot. There was a lot going, but there wasn't, it wasn't that much. I think vMix was running about 10%, something like that. VidBlaster was only running about 10 or 12%. So it was really FFmpeg that was the memory, the CPU hog, and only one instance of that was CPU hog. So it was really kind of interesting. Currently, right now, we're actually doing the production of this show in vMix. vMix is got its own kind of VVD, which they call an external output that VidBlaster is picking up as a camera, and so VidBlaster is streaming the 180p stream and recording the show. And let's see what do we got? We've got vMix running 7 to 10%, VidBlaster running 7%, FFmpeg running 6%, 3%, and 2%. So somehow the vMix implementation of streaming 720p using FFmpeg is more efficient than the VidBlaster implementation of FFmpeg streaming 720p. So we'll have to kind of dig in behind the scenes and see if we can figure out how to boost VidBlaster a little bit so that it does a little better job. But I think there's a lot of promise there, and I think VidBlaster is closer to being what we dreamed it would be, years ago. It's funny, this month marks the 3-year anniversary of this show. Starting next month, we will be in our 4th year of that VidBlaster guy. And I think we started way back in version 1.36 or something like that. And I actually showed up I was talking with Alan Bunn about this. Alan and I were chatting the other day. By the way, remind me, we've got a cool announcement I want to make sure I get to before the end of the show. We were talking about, when we had popped into the VidBlaster scene, and I think I was there before version 1, like at version 0.40 or 0.42 or something like that. And even back then, I could see the promise in what it was doing. As a VidBlaster reseller and as a VidBlaster user, one of the things that I continue to be impressed with, despite the new bells and whistles that are added, is that VidBlaster, I think, continues to be the easiest of the live production softwares to learn to use, so that you can be more productive faster with VidBlaster. Now, that doesn't mean that you may think differently than I do, and so the way your brain operates, it matches up better with Wirecast or with vMix, and I sort of put the three of those as the big three right now. And there are others out there, some of which are clones of one of the three, some of which are sort of hardware, software implementations like the TriCaster. But most of the time, TriCaster's out of the reach for most of us financially, and some of the other boxes or software implementations in a box are out there too. But when you can pick up VidBlaster for $195 for a home license, or the VidBlaster X, which is the studio license on a rental basis, you can have a lot of power at your fingertips. Yeah, I got distracted by Tommy House comparing the fact that he's in Montgomery and the other Tommy is in Tallahassee, and both of them are in Alabama, and they're probably about 40 miles from each other. And here they've met up again on this chat room. Okay, so where were we going with all that? Where were we going with all that? We were going someplace. Oh, I'm going to tell you about Alan Bunt. Alan, of course, is a longtime VidBlaster guy doing great things at Good Shepherd Lutheran Church up in Wisconsin. And he and I are going to get together probably next month in August. We'll just have to see. And put a new roundtable together. You remember we did a VidBlaster roundtable. I think it was back in January or February of this year. Maybe it's been longer than that. And we had about 4 or 5 VidBlaster guys together, and we sort of threw out questions to all of them and gave them time to answer, and then had a discussion at the end of it. And it really was a great show. It was a lot of fun to do. Well, Al and I are going to co-host the church streaming roundtable coming up next month, or maybe September. We'll just have to see how quickly we can get it together. If you are in the church streaming business, either as a professional with the church or as a volunteer, and would like to be on the show, shoot me an email, tom@vidblasterguide.com, and we'll put your name in the hat. I think we probably want to err on the side of having too few people on the show than too many, so that we make sure everybody has a chance to adequately share what they're doing, how they're doing it. It's not going to be a VidBlaster-centric show. We will include folks from different backgrounds and different softwares. And that's the beauty of it, is that I think we can learn. We don't have to use the same thing in order to learn from each other. So the Wirecast folks can learn from the VidBlaster folks, and the vMix folks can learn from the Wirecast folks, and all the way around. So Tom Sinclair, Alan Bunt, your two dynamic church streaming co-hosts, coming up on the church streaming roundtable that we'll be hosting here in another 3 to 6 weeks. Don't hold us to that on the date, but I'll make sure you get plenty of notice. Well, and one of the sponsors for the show will be the new company that I'm starting called Church Streaming PC, where we will have church streaming PCs. I would say custom built, but they're already built, ready for quick shipment. So if you're considering a streaming PC for your church, we haven't gotten them ready quite yet, but when we do, they'll be ready to literally ship the same day you order. So your pastor could say to you on a Sunday, "Boy, I want to be streaming," and you make the call to us on a Monday, and you have the system on a Wednesday. And assuming that you know how to use the software, you're streaming on the following Sunday. So it could be a lot of fun. And you'll have my cell phone number there too. Anyway, let's see. How are we doing on time? We're doing pretty good on time. Trying to keep this show to about 30 minutes. We used to do this show for an hour, and bless your hearts, those of you that watched it to the bitter end. And I did get one beautiful email from a guy who said, your show is just useless. It's just worthless. I'm going in there for information, and all I get is this gab. And I at first I was offended. Of course, you're always offended when somebody has a criticism. But then I realized, he needed answers. He wanted an answer. And so I wrote him back, and thankfully I let his email sit for a little while before I fired back a mean, nasty email to him. But I wrote him back and I said, I certainly understand, and I'll bet that you can find what you're looking for out there in a more efficient manner, a lot quicker. But here we're trying to, it's really sort of a community that we're building. Excuse me. And so as a result, we don't always get right to the point. Sometimes we beat around the bush. Sometimes it's like, for those of you that are under the age of 20, this probably won't make any sense. For those of you under the age of 30, it may not make any sense. But there used to be books that families would buy and put on the shelves in their homes, at least here in the U.S., called an encyclopedia. And there might be 10 of them, there might be 30 of them. And inside, they would be packed with facts about just about anything that could be known. at least with a common understanding. And so when you went to the encyclopedia in order to work on a report for school, sometimes you had to go to school to get the encyclopedias that were, newer. If you were in a family of 3 or 4 kids and you were the youngest, your encyclopedias were probably 10 years old by the time you got to use them. But when you pull out that magical book and open it up, and you want to find out about X-rays, you find out about a lot of other things in the course of getting to the X-ray page. And so you find about, why would I pick X-rays? Because now I can't think of any good examples of words that start with an X. But the idea is that you get this sort of knowledge by walking around, knowledge by bumping into things. And that knowledge fills out the breadth of, in our case, of your video knowledge. These little tidbits, these little conversations about this, that, or the other broadens your knowledge, broadens your understanding. And the broader your understanding gets, the higher your wisdom gets. Now remember, knowing facts and being wise are 2 different things. You can know tons of facts, but unless you can put those facts together and draw conclusions and move forward, you haven't really shown any wisdom. And I really think that a lot of this bumping into it knowledge is where wisdom comes along. And this show, we bump into a lot of stuff. And sometimes we break it. And we get extra knowledge for that. And we get the wisdom of saying, I can tell you, what was it, Thomas Edison had 1,000 ways that he knew did not work for a light bulb. And we learn a lot the same way. Trial and error, yep. And also, what's the right word? Unintended success, or success in it's like, okay, if I were God and I wanted to create an apple, and I created an orange the first time, hey, an orange is pretty good too. That's not a bad deal. So now we get oranges and apples. Not to say that God accidentally did anything, because I think he was very intentional about everything. But it's the kind of thing that we discover things in the process of trying to do X that we can use in other ways in the future. Boy, I butchered that explanation, but hopefully you understand. And so that's a long way of saying, watch this show through to the end, because there's some good stuff there that will help you and benefit you long term as you're in this business. What else? I had one more thing to send to you before I close. Oh, I know what it was. We have finished building our test bed PC, and we are about to pull out of it the AJA Kona 4 card that we've been using. And unfortunately, it's not yet compatible with VidBlaster. VidBlaster will have to do some driver work for that. But it's a wonderful card, and it installed and fired off beautifully. Somebody was commenting earlier, how good I looked. They were commenting in pre-show, and I don't think it's because I'm that good looking. They were talking about the quality of the video, and I think we may find out that part of that is the Kona card, because when this Kona card comes out, we're putting the Blackmagic Intensity Pro card back in, hooking it back up to the same camera, and we'll see if it's any better or any worse. But the other thing that we want to put in the test bed is this StarTech 4-port USB card. And my hope is it's a 3.0 4-port USB card. And I'm hoping that this kind of becomes a great way for those of you that want to do multi-camera setups but only have a webcam budget. So you can buy this card, pop it in there, plug in 4 webcams, and use the webcams as static cams, even in a church environment, with a USB extender, and you can extend. Let's say you can extend 100 feet, then you can pop some webcams in different places around. Now you may not have the ability to pan and zoom, but if you put them in the right place, it doesn't matter, because you're going to be able to get the choir, or get the pastor preaching, or whatever, or get that wide shot of the church, and be able to do it for $75 a camera as opposed to a capture card of some type, and then a camera of some type. I mean, even as a budget, I bought my Blackmagic card, I think, from Newegg for retail, which is like $189 at that point, because I wanted to have one that was brand new. I'd bought some off of eBay before that were bricks, so I didn't want to go that route. But the camera that I'm using today, and the camera that I'll be using next week with the Blackmagic card, is a Canon Vixia HF R100 or something like that. I mean, it was one of the very first. In fact, it may have been in fact, I may have the very first one ever made. And I actually have two of them, and I bought those off eBay, and they've been great little cameras, and they give a good picture. They're high definition, and they were inexpensive. I think the second one I bought for $100. I picked up a Canon HFR 200, which is the newer version of the same cam, and it does well. I don't think the color in that one is as good as the color in this 100. So what I'm saying is, so I've got 200 in a capture card and 100 in a camera. I'm at $300 for one, and for $300 I could have purchased 4 webcams, and then of course I got to buy the extenders. But at some point, the numbers, you got to do what you got to do. But we'll be testing this guy, and we'll see. Let's see. I don't think I have any cameras set up where I can show you, but basically it's a PCIe card with 4 USB 3.0 ports on it. Part of the feedback I got on this is that the orientation of these ports makes it difficult sometimes to plug cams in. So we'll double check that and let you know. So if we don't get to that next week, we'll be doing it the week after. So that'll be something to look forward to. Also one other thing before we close. I've just been approved as a USA Magewell dealer. So if you need Magewell capture cards, let me know. We can probably, as a viewer of this show, we can probably find a way to you know what I'm saying, that I'm not allowed to say. So we'll see. I may get my hand slapped already, first time out of the box. But shoot me an email, tell me what you want, and we'll see. Maybe I can send you a stuffed bunny or something to make it worth your while. Stuffed bunny. Got that. Okay. Anyway. So I guess that's it. Church Streaming Roundtable coming up with Alan Bunt. Keep your eye out for that. StarTech 4-port USB 3.0 card review coming up in a couple of weeks. And I think we may have a Magewell rep on the show here before too long. If Martin's still watching, when I talked to the Magewell folks, they were very impressed with your video, by the way. So we may have to get together and do some more of those. That would be fun. So that's it, folks. That's it, folks. And what the heck? We'll see you next week on that VidBlaster guy. Take care.